Can you start the camera, please?
All right, it's recording, but I've got to crop it anyway. Ready?
Ready to bang.
Welcome to the Coaching Collective podcast. So I'm not sure what episode we're up to today, but today we are in the presence of Kyl Raggio, otherwise known as the Ultimate Physique Coach, otherwise known as the overall Queensland winner from Season B 2023. That's how I found you.
And Season A.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did the back-to-back seasons. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. Nah, cool, man. Without further ado, man, just introduce yourself to the listeners and we'll go from there.
Well, I think you did a great job. I'm just a regular dude who likes to lift weights and coach people.
Yeah, fucking oath. Yeah. No, go on.
No, I mean, look, who I am, what I do, I guess. Competitive bodybuilder, have been on and off for a long time. I think the last sort of 2 years has been really productive and really something that I've taken quite seriously. In terms of what I do on a day-to-day, coaching, online coaching, contest prep, and that was probably, a big transition and probably something we'll discuss today as well, from face-to-face training, owning a gym, battling COVID, all that sort of fun stuff to, living on the Gold Coast now and kind of doing our thing, which is great.
Living the dream on the Gold Coast as well.
Trying to.
Unfortunately, you have to train at World Gym Burley, but that's okay.
Yeah, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, no. No one needs to know. No, that's cool, man. Yeah, so with the gym as well. So that was in Sydney, right?
Yeah, so that was in Randwick, which is sort of just outside the eastern suburbs of Sydney. But yeah, we had the great pleasure of opening that like 3 months before COVID lockdowns.
It's funny, bro, because I remember I thought it was bad. I bought like fucking 30 grand worth of bank stocks about 2 weeks before COVID happened. And I was like, yeah, this is the best investment ever. And then I thought the world was coming down. And then there's people that had bought whole businesses prior to it.
Dude, we were literally like, so Gabby and I were working, like, a backstory anyway. We were working at Fitness First for like, I think I was there for like 6 years. She started working at Fitness First, and then it got to the point where we were both paying rent at Fitness First, which was more expensive than the rent we had at our studio. So we kind of just went like, fuck this, like, let's go and open a space. We found a little spot and kind of buried our life savings into it and maxed out a few credit cards, and off we went. And yeah, literally like 6 months. And I had a good friend of mine that I trained every Monday morning at 6 a.m. And she texted me and she said, "Oh, are we still training tomorrow morning?" I said, "Yeah, what do you mean?" Like, of course. She said, "Oh, I saw on the news that you have to shut the gym tomorrow. All businesses close at midday tomorrow." I was like, what the fuck? Says who? And literally on 6 months to the day, we had to shut the doors. And I think that first lockdown was like 3 months, 4 months almost.
Yeah, it was the 4 months and then it opened up for like 3 weeks and it felt like the world was like alive again.
Yeah. And then we got stung again. It was the second lockdown a month after that.
Yeah, the first one was definitely the most stressful. I remember I was out for lunch when I found out and I went ballistic because like my business went to shit. Obviously I didn't have the overhead that came with yours, but very stressful. But then as they kind of went on and we had lockdown after lockdown after lockdown, it sort of became just like, fuck, it is what it is. Like, what can you do about this? Yeah.
That was, I mean, the first one was tough, obviously, because there was no like financial support. There was no like structure in terms of what was happening. We were just like, fuck, we were paying for this space that we couldn't even touch. And I mean, like you said, you just kind of adapt, right? Like the bummer was it was in the middle of winter. So we were training people in the park at 5:30, 6 a.m. fucking freezing every day. So that was fun.
Yeah, I remember I actually set up the gym in the backyard. I did under like a pergola, had the cops rock up a couple of times, and I saw some it's outdoors. And I remember a couple of times said to them, "Is this okay?" Like I tried to act really like I'm like, as far as I'm aware, this is okay. Is it okay? And they'd be like, well, one of the cops was like, "I don't know." Like, but maybe be careful. And I was like,
maybe don't do it.
Yeah. Oh, I had a couple rock up that really cracked it, but I reckon like people were dubbing me in, like people that knew I was doing it.
Well,
Like the neighbors were good.
We had the same issue because we were fortunate in the sense that our gym was like the main road was kind of here, and we were in a laneway, like an alleyway, and we were the first shop off the alleyway. And for the first lockdown, we used to just have a roller door. It was proper ghetto. And we were okay. It was fine. Like we were just training in there, fucking around, no worries. And then the landlord did a whole bunch of refurbs to the building, and he put like a beautiful glass shop front, and it was all awesome. Like we had exposure. But then we would go in there and people would fucking calling the cops, standing out the front, like, you can't be in there. I'm like, are you serious? Like, we're paying rent for it. We can do whatever we want. Like, fuck off.
Apparently you couldn't even visit your business if you wanted to, technically.
No, we got, the cops came and told us to get out as well. Like,
So you're saying even when you were just there, you two?
Well, we were like, it was funny because when the first lockdown happened and all the gyms shut, everything closed, we're like sucked in, we've got a gym, like we can train, do whatever we want. And it lasted about a week, and then cops came and this and that. They're like, you can't even be in here, you can't train. And we're like, it's ours. What do you mean we can't use it?
Technically be living there.
Well, that's what a couple of times we were like, oh, we live here at the back. They're like, no, you don't.
Well, who's to say you don't? So wait, was this one of the reasons you decided to move from having the facility to the online space and to Gold Coast?
Yeah. So that went on for like, I think the whole COVID thing was like, it was about 12, 18 months or something, right? Like from the time that it all happened, it completely destroyed us, man. Like just to kind of put it in context, we opened the business for 6 months, COVID bullshit, lockdowns, everything. We reopened the business on our first birthday. And like we'd missed a whole year of opportunities of growth. Like we'd spent all our money setting it up. So we were basically starting from negative at year one, at the end of year one, which was fine. Like we had a pretty good run. We got back to where we wanted to be. And it just kind of, after about 3 years, we just kind of got to the point that we were like, man, this is just not fun anymore. Like we've just spent so much time chasing our tail. During that second lockdown, we put more money into it because we renovated the whole space. So we knocked down walls, we put new equipment, we painted, we did like beautiful lighting, we did floors, like everything. And we kind of just got to the point that we were like, oh man, this is just like, it's not fun anymore. Like we've had to battle so hard that I actually don't enjoy it anymore. And then it just kind of got to the point that we were like, you know, let's try this online coaching thing. Everyone seems to be doing it. And we literally sold the business like by sheer fluke. Like we were planning on listing it on, you know, some business broker websites and whatever, trying to get some buyers in. And I just randomly mentioned it to a few people like, oh, you know, we might think about selling the studio. And I think within like a week, I had a mate of a mate kind of messaged me and said, hey bro, I heard you might be selling it. I said, yeah, you interested? He's like, yeah, I'll come today. Fuck, okay. Literally offered me cash on the spot for what I wanted for it. And I was like, oh, okay, take it.
Easy.
And then, yeah, within a week, we handed the keys over and packed up our life and moved away.
Oh, so you moved up that quickly as well. So it wasn't even like a big decision process.
We literally, well, it was a couple of months. So we kind of sold it.
Yeah.
We literally had no online business. Like we were running a fucking PT studio, group training, you know, gym. And we literally went, here's the keys, see you later. We got the money and we were like, fuck, all right, we've got to start a business now.
Yeah.
And we literally did that. It was like a few months of sort of hustling and kind of just, you know, for the few clients that stayed with us, we kind of moved them online and just started spending heaps of time on social media, really doing lots of marketing and just kind of putting ourselves out there. And then, yeah, we were just like, fuck, let's go to Queensland, man. We've got no reason to be in Sydney. And that was when all the crazy Sydney rental price increases happened.
Yeah. I don't know better up north, but.
Well, it was more like, because it was bad. Like we had a pretty cool little place in Coogee.
Yeah.
We sold the gym. We were kind of working from home. And they tried to put our rent up like $300 a week. And we were like, no.
Yeah.
And we basically said, no, like we're happy to sign a new lease. Like, you know, nah, get out. And we're like, all right, sweet, we're going to Queensland, bye.
Yeah, probably made the right move anyway.
Oh, 100%. And it was like, so ironic as well, because we went on the website, or like realestate.com, when we moved up here. And they ended up releasing it for less than what we were paying. And we were like, sucked in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were in Coogee, actually. That's kind of cool.
It was a good spot, man. We loved it.
Yeah, it is a nice spot. I don't know a hell of a lot about it. Izzy always brings it up. Yeah.
It's kind of like the cousin of Bondi.
Yeah. It's a cheaper cousin. The quiet cousin. Well, potentially.
Kinda.
Yeah, kind of. It's probably the same price, eh?
Yeah. Not much cheaper.
Yeah, the only thing that would get me about Bondi is probably the crowds.
Well, I think when I first moved to Sydney, I lived in Bondi for like 3 years. I had a little studio apartment on Bondi Road, and it was mental.
Yeah.
Absolutely mental.
My brother loves Bondi.
it's like, it's cool to go visit, but I think, yeah, when I lived there, like we both, you know, at Fitness First in Bondi Junction. So it was like, you just kind of never leave that Bondi bubble. And that's the whole joke. It's like the Bondi bubble that no one leaves.
Yeah, of course. By the way, it's funny that you say that because Fitness First rent, I remember the rent that I was paying at my old gym, it was like the size of like this kitchen that I'm in, which is tiny. And me and James are paying more for that than we were for like a full-size office in like a
Oh,
suburb over. And the
it's
full-size,
disgusting.
like a bathroom, a posing room, podcast studio.
We were paying, I think collectively, this was in like between 2016 to like 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Between Gabby and I, we were paying $1,000 a week rent to Fitness First.
Oh, no, okay, ours wasn't that bad. Yeah.
Right. And this is back then, like this is years ago. We were paying $1,000 a week. And this was before they did any of the renovations. That gym was like the most busted old Fitness First out of all the Fitness First gyms in Australia. And it was the busiest.
Yeah.
And we were just like, are you joking? Like $500 a week each. The gym was falling apart and it was so busy that like we both stopped training clients in the evenings because we were like, you literally can't get equipment in the evenings.
What suburb was the Fitness First?
In Bondi Junction in the Westfield.
I was Bondi. Okay. Yeah, see, because I actually, believe it or not, I've never been to a Fitness First.
Well, yeah,
But I've heard that they're
it.
very expensive. I know guys that do it in Melbourne Central, in Melbourne. Oh, Melbourne Central makes sense. And I know the rent's very expensive, but I also know the rate that you charge out at is a lot higher than anywhere else. It's like
That was the difference.
clientele. Yeah, the city clientele is like more willing to spend. Yeah.
But I mean, it was good. Like, I think those were the like PT glory days when it was like, I don't know, it might have been different in Melbourne, but in Sydney, you kind of had like some OG like PTs that were sort of, you know, the cool guys in the industry, and you kind of got in with them and you kind of become like the next person on the ranks. But it was cool, man. Like you could charge shitloads of money. You know, you were running 40, 50, 60 sessions a week and just most of it was cash. Don't listen. Sorry, ATO, if you're listening.
Man, that cost.
But it was an absolute ball.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah, because I actually always question whether, I personally think PT is not as popular at the moment, obviously, but I feel like if you got back into PT, I feel like if I got back into PT and I just marketed it well, I reckon I could go ballistic because no one does it anymore.
It's, you know what, it's so funny that you say this because I was literally, I was walking into World Gym the other day and the PT manager, he's like, wait, he's like, do you PT? And I was kind of a bit sus. I thought he was like trying to get me in trouble for something. Like I've been training people at their gym.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what do you mean? He said, oh, we've had heaps of trainers leave and we've got heaps of leads and we've got no trainers to give them to because all the ones that are here are booked out. And I was like, nah, man, like I do online coaching full time. And I thought about it. I was like, wonder if I could just go there and do like 50 sessions a week, charge like $200 a session.
Yeah, no, I genuinely reckon you could because like it's a dying market, but like I've obviously shared my thoughts on heaps, on not just with you, on heaps of podcasts with like the coaching space. I think the weak links will drop off, and I think that will return back to its glory in time.
Yeah, and I think it's the same as online coaching too, right? Like something that I've noticed, and a big part of what I'm doing now moving forward, like we've locked in a couple of seminars now, and I think a lot of my sort of coaching, mentoring, development stuff is really geared towards other trainers and coaches, especially like in the, you know, physique development space, if we call it that. PT is so bad, and like, not like I don't want to bash it or kind of disrespect anyone that's doing a really good job because there are really great trainers out there, but you can't help walking into commercial gyms and just watching trainers do things, and I'm like, you wonder why you're not busy or you're not sort of, you know, gaining any traction with your business or what you're doing as a brand. You turn up to a session, you're eating a fucking burrito bowl while you're training the client. You don't even have a program. Like I was sitting there watching the other day, this chick walks in with her client, looking around. She's like, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that's free over there. Let's go do that. What are you like? What are you training for? What are you even doing?
I actually, the other day I was at a gym in Barcelona, like, and the guy was literally the whole session just scrolling through his phone like this.
Dude.
And yeah, I was just like, it's just like, do you actually give a shit whatsoever? Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was crazy. And like you see that time and time again. Even you walk into gyms, even my local gym, man, like half the time they look like they just don't want to be there. But in my view, usually the guys that are doing PT are struggling more so with the business, because I feel like in my view, if you have a thriving business, you're probably not on the gym floor. At least you're not on the
Yeah.
gym floor every day. I went through a phase where I was doing like 70 sessions a week.
Yeah.
Probably
Same.
the same thing. Yeah, man, that used to bury me, but fuck, I didn't care.
Totally different story. Like I was
Yeah,
doing that at Bondi at Fitness First.
yeah,
I had a studio apartment that I lived in by myself.
yeah.
I had a sports bike that I used to ride to work every day, and
Mm.
life was a dream. I was 25 years old and did whatever I want.
It's funny, it was a dream. And I remember the time when I first started doing it as well, I didn't care so much about the programming and whatnot. Like I was able to differentiate clients between the ones that cared and the ones that didn't, which is terrible in hindsight. So the ones that really cared, they'd get their program, they get everything tailored week on week, they'd be doing their performance assessments, etc. And the other ones would get a session. And I remember I had days that were just session days. And it was the easiest thing because when that clock hit, whenever my last session was,
Oh,
I was in the
don't
dream,
care.
especially in the middle of summer.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that was us. We're literally like,
Yeah.
I'd finish all my sessions at midday on a Friday, and we'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, let's go down the beach, straight down
Yeah.
to Bondi for the afternoon. Like, what?
That's what my Fridays look like as well. Go down to Port Melbourne Beach, and that were the good old days. Yeah. The good thing about that was you did have set hours, but at the same time, I'm sure you dealt with the inconsistencies, cancellations, so on and so forth as well.
Oh,
Attention.
I
Well,
don't know why I had this. I had a niche when I
yeah.
was in Bondi. I used to train all the heavy duty drug dealers and
Mm.
Middle Eastern crime gangs.
Oof. At least they're exciting, interesting.
Bro, it was so random. Like, I don't know why. I just kept getting all these clients that were just like heavy duty
Mm.
and awesome because they'd all pay cash and they'd train. Like, I'm not kidding. I had guys paying like 5 days a week. They were paying me for training. They'd turn up maybe once, twice every
Yeah.
week. Just give me a wad of cash for the week and then go, oh, see you tomorrow, bro. Oh, I can't make it. Okay.
I had one guy that used to pay me. I'd go to his car at the end of the week. He'd pay me. I'd go to his car. I'd go to his car. He'd pull out a wad of cash and he'd just hand it to me. And like the first couple times, I'd be like, "Hey man, there's too much there." He'd be like, "Don't worry about it." And the second time, I'd be like, "Hey man, there's like an extra $200 here. It's all good." And then after that, I just sort of started thinking, "All right, yeah." And every time, man, it was just like it's just like he'd get the money, he'd just flick some together and just give it to me.
Take it.
Yeah. And then like he wouldn't rock up for like 3 sessions and he'd just be like, "Oh, sorry, here's like it just crazy."
Bro,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm going to call World Gym right now. I'm joining.
Yeah, you may as well. Yeah,
Cash only.
I've often thought if I'd ever go back to it, just like in the long term, but not to do it as a regular, like a recurring thing, more just to do like odd sessions just to break up the monotony of it all. But
yeah,
like
I think it's funny.
it would be my own facility. I would never do it out of someone else's facility. Yeah, never.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you and I have discussed this, like having a private space to just run training sessions or run workshops or whatever you want to do. But I think there's merit in face to face, which is why, like when we did our Sydney training camp last year, like people get a lot out of it because I think it's that whole like cliche of knowledge isn't power unless it's applied type scenario. I think a lot of coaches, trainers, whatever, they spend lots of time reading or like listening to podcasts or going to seminars or whatever, but they don't actually do any of it. They don't apply it, or they don't even have what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have the in the trenches experience doing the hard stuff in order to apply it to their clients. So to give you an example, when I was when I was at Fitness First, right? Like, man, I went to a seminar, workshop, training camp, every opportunity I could. And I think the most notable one and the best one that I went to was a week-long training camp with Milos Sarcev. For anyone who doesn't know who Milos Sarcev is, he was one of the crazy, right? He was one of the. I think he actually holds the record for like most competitions throughout an IFBB career or something, like crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard that before. Yeah, but I didn't know
he
would hold that title. Yeah. Okay.
He would literally do like just compete all year. Like he was just always in shape.
Yeah.
And he was the guy that kind of coined the whole giant set thing and made it popular. And I remember back then, that was at Clean Health in like 2015 or something. And I think it was like $500 and it went for 5 days, like 5 full days. And like he absolutely annihilated us for 5 days. But it was like the coolest thing ever. You learn so much cool shit, like whether any of it's applicable or not. And I think there's so much merit to just kind of doing the hard stuff and being in the trenches and then kind of walking away being like, cool, like what was actually useful? What can I apply? And what was, useless.
Yeah, of course. I remember I did it. The way that I got myself, I guess, rolling was through the attendance of seminars. I felt like that was the biggest motivating factor. I think what you can take away from them, even more than what you learn from them and the practical experience, is even just I'm not going to say networking, because networking implies that you're gaining leverage through meeting the other people. It's more just being immersed in those communities gives you a better sense of
100%.
direction and a better sense of purpose. Because
100%.
I've spoken about this before, actually, more than once. But I remember I did the Eugene Teo, like it was a 3-day seminar. Would have been 2017. That was before I started doing this properly. And I got heaps out of that. Like I remember I left and I was like, that was like the best weekend of my life. But the main thing I got out of it was not what I learned or anything like that. It was the fact that I remember there was this PT sitting next to me the whole weekend, and we sort of kept talking. He'd keep copying my answers, and he kept, not my answers, but my notes. So I was taking heaps of notes.
Yeah.
And he kept asking me questions because he noticed I was writing more than he was saying, because it's like I was trying to break it down. Do you know what I mean? And some of them were the dumbest fucking questions. And then as the day went on, I sort of said, so how do you do? And he told me what he was earning. And I was like, this cunt's full of shit. Like, I'm like, yeah. And then I remember another guy sort of started telling me about it as well. And I thought to myself, if these guys are this fucking stupid and they can do that well, like imagine. So like just little takeaways like that. I know that's super like rude sounding, but just being, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
You, my
it's
point
being
is, you might not
immersed.
take away, you'll take away what you're expecting, but you also might not take away, you might take away things that you're not expecting. Do you know what I
100%. And like you said,
mean?
it's the relationships that you gain in those situations too, to be able
Yeah.
to like, and as ironic as it is, like I still talk to Milos now. Like I
Yeah.
chat to him, through social media or even like, I don't know if do you know Kilo Strength Society over in the US, Stefan Kazul?
Oh, no, I don't think so. It sounds familiar.
So
I hesitated.
so again, like I went over to the US in like 2017, 2018. He was he was the head educator for Poliquin Group. And when Poliquin passed away, he kind of went off and did his own thing, and was doing like the certification courses and hypertrophy camps and all this stuff. And I went over to the US and did like a 3-day training camp with him over there. And it's exactly that. Like that was 6 years ago now or something like that. But even now to this day, like he's kind of just become a good mate of mine. We chat all the time, and like we're organizing to go over to the US hopefully this year. And he's like, bro, you better be coming down to Florida and come train at my gym and we'll hang out. And I'm like, those relationships just become so special because it's just something you never even thought would happen. To kind of be on a level with someone that you looked up to is really cool.
Yeah, I got like that with Ben Cant as well when I was doing a bit of work with him. I got coached
There
by
you
him
go.
though, but yeah, just obviously when they're good people, it helps as well.
Yeah. And that's usually like, you kind of meet those people that you're like, okay, you're actually genuine and, this could be a good relationship. I know, like our situation.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, it is a very I did say to Isabel yesterday though, it is hard to find people in this space on our wavelength to a degree.
I reckon a lot of that has come back full circle from what you said about the seminars because they kind of don't exist and people don't network and don't do things anymore. And we spoke about this in terms of that networking thing, that everyone's very like hush, like I'm doing like secret projects and trying to, avoid, I don't know, like sharing with other people, which is weird.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, but I actually, we and Izzy spoke about this in depth yesterday, believe it or not. And it was more like it's hard to find other coaches who have genuine intentions in like being
Yes.
long term rather than using coaching to leverage their lifestyles.
Yes.
Or just, you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah. They might not be as rare as I believe that they are. They probably do exist, and there's plenty of coaches out there that probably are like that, but there's always something that makes it hard to really engage with more people like that. And I can't put my finger on it.
I think a lot of it, yeah, a lot of them are like surface level interactions where someone's trying to gain something from it, or
Yeah. And like for me, like I'd rather not engage than have to deal with someone on that kind of level. Obviously, it shows you deal with people like that, but you know what it's like. It shows sometimes. Sometimes the coaches want nothing to do with you. Yeah. Look, I might give that impression as well, but if someone comes up and talks to me, I'm going to talk. Like I don't care. I'm not going to keep any secrets. No one's like I'm not competing with any other coaches there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, I mean, and Gabby yells at me all the time about this. She's like, "You're an oversharer. Like you tell people too much." And
And I'm the exact same as you, man. Izzy says that to me too. I've actually got I had like a one of my New Year's resolutions was to not New Year's resolution. It's just like I don't know. I probably haven't told you this, but I write like a little contract to myself.
yeah,
I do it in intervals, but one of the big ones was not to overshare, not for any reason other than like I just believe that no one needs to hear the like you're saying, but it's sometimes hard when you're inclined that way just to like be like, you know what, like you just say how it is.
Well, I think my big thing is like I'm always of the opinion that nobody's got any malice towards me. Everyone's like intentions are pure when more than often they're not. But I just go into every interaction with like, oh yeah, they're a really nice person. Like I don't care, whatever turn out to be, they're not.
Nah, see, for me, I think over the years I've just realized that, like, you know what, if someone's going to spin shit, they're going to do it anyway. So who cares? It's like, yeah, I don't know, man. I've always been like that, and it is definitely an issue at times. You say it to the wrong people.
Well, I think as well, like, I suppose we can segue into this if you want, but about bodybuilding and competing specifically, it's a very like again, it's that cliche of like bodybuilding is a solo sport and it's very like self-absorbed, but it's not like, and I think the issue has become over the years as well. People are very secretive about like what they're doing or like what PEDs they're taking, and they don't want anyone to know anything. Where it's like, I mean, the opportunities we had to train together and stuff like that, I think they are so invaluable in terms of opportunities to growth and collaborate and to kind of share knowledge and experience. Where when everyone's so closed off and so hush-hush about everything, it's like, it just makes it not that fun, especially to kind of be competitive. Like you go to comps and everyone's like hush-hush about what they're doing. No one wants to know, what's happening. And it's like, bro, like everyone's here to do the same thing. Like whatever you're doing is what you're doing. It's not going to affect what I'm doing.
Yeah. And then I guess even by opening that pathway of communication to share, it would create more opportunities for both parties as well. So
100%.
I think that's a problem. I just think the PED conversation makes it a little like that's what forced people to be secretive in the fear that they're going to be judged by. I don't think it's a fear of someone copying. Maybe it is a little bit.
Not really. Look, I think the big thing for me, and this is probably why I'm not a massive oversharer with that stuff, purely because of the legalities around it, right? Like it's illegal for one.
Of course.
And it's just one of those things that you kind of, what I've seen more so is that the whole copycat thing, maybe a little bit like people think that like, oh yeah, he's doing that and he looks like that, so I'm just going to do that. And that's all it is. When in reality, it's like people don't see the shit that happens behind the scenes. Like I'm 33. I've been training since I think I lifted my first weight at like 14. So I've been training for 19 years. And, a big chunk of those early years were probably fucking around. But it's like, you can't get away from the fact you still need to do hard work. You still need to train. You still need to eat. You still need to do all the right things. Drugs don't magically just make you look like a Mr. Olympia.
It's interesting when you get individuals who think that the drugs are, I always say, I had this exact conversation with someone this morning. I said the drugs will accelerate the growth, not accelerate the growth. Let me just try to get these words right. So your training and nutrition are what are going to drive progress. The PEDs will accelerate that. But what I mean by that is a lot of people look at the PEDs as what's actually driving the progress. It's like, I need this, I need this, I need this. And it's like, I also encourage them to zoom out and look at it across a 12-month basis, hypothetical 12-month basis. You want to make progress across that period. You don't want to make bursts of progress across 12 to 14 weeks, even though we both know that if you're making bursts of progress across those shorter windows, usually people look like shit.
Yeah.
Like it's under,
well,
yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, it's the whole, like, putting the cart before the horse. Like, and that even works on the supplement level as well, like over-the-counter supplements.
Yeah.
Like someone will go to a supplement store and spend $1,000 on protein and pre-workout and test booster and this and that before they've even like considered how much they need to eat, how often they should be training, like all these things. And it's like nothing that you can take or, you know, ingest or stick into your body is going to negate the fact that you need to work your ass off, like, period.
Exactly right. It's I feel like the consistent returns over years of just good training, good nutrition, good habits is significantly underrated. Because even for myself, I'm 29 now, obviously a little bit younger than you, but like for years I didn't take my shit seriously. And I did notice for the little bursts that I would, is I'd make inroads, like significant inroads. And my biggest regret is looking back and thinking, if I did this for 5 consistent years, I'd be a completely different level right now. Instead, I'm like at the
100%.
beginning of my journey. And no one wants to apply themselves consistently over those periods. Even, you know what it's like, you get a new, let's say you get a new young guy who wants to compete and he wants to look like this in like April next year. And it's like, well, have you thought about what you're going to look like in April 2026? Like that's the goal.
No.
Next year's experience.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, but I want to do this and this person's doing this. And like, I want to be competitive. And it's like, well, you want a long career too. One of the really interesting things I saw was, it's not interesting, but it's just some perspective, which is very much common sense. But Victor Black posted a post about a guy who turned pro and he shared his cycle and he was on like an absurd amount of gear. And in the post, he said, if this is what you require to turn pro, just give up now. Like you're fucked. But it makes sense because then you need to escalate again.
Where do you go from there? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And like it was just an interesting point of conversation for me. So if you do require X amount to get to this point, where do you go from there? And that takes me into my next conversation as well, which is sort of off track, but you'll kind of probably like this one. What's the point in turning pro? Just I look, for me, if that was ever a goal of mine, I'd be happy just turning pro. I wouldn't really have intentions of necessarily taking that to the next level because I don't think I capably could. But regardless, people turn pro in poor lineups. What is the point in turning pro in a weak lineup if then you're never going to be a good pro?
It looks good on Instagram.
Yeah, pretty much it. But it's just, there's so many pros out there that are never going to do anything with it or don't do anything with it. And quite a dark horse, that's the case.
Yeah, like I was looking, I mean, no one in particular, but just seeing people that have a pro card in whatever federation or whatever category, and they got a pro card and then they just never competed again. Or like, oh, I'm coming out of retirement doing my first pro show like 5 years after I got my pro card. Like, why?
They keep paying for it so they can keep it in the Instagram bio.
100%. Like, and I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight the fact that that is my number one objective. I want to get my IFBB Pro Card in Classic Physique. And
you're close. It's only a matter of time.
Well, it's one of those things now that like I think the caliber has increased exponentially. So the things that I'm doing and the way that I'm approaching it is 10 times more than it was in the last 12 months. So for me, like that's my goal. And my goal is to take this thing as far as I can while I'm blessed with the opportunity to be, you know, young enough, fit enough, healthy enough to kind of do it and to be able to capitalize on these opportunities. And I think a lot of people maybe go into it for the wrong reasons, and maybe they just, you know, good genetics or whatever, just kind of fluke it and it happens. Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer to see, unfortunately.
You do see lineups where there is just, it's a weak cohort and the person flukes pro cards. I've seen that happen so many times, especially across the globe. There's certain shows in the Middle East that do like 6 pro cards.
There was a show in the US that gave away like 20 pro cards for Classic
for one category.
A couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh God, that kills me. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. See, it just not that it dilutes the pool, it just removes the prestigiousness. I can't think of the right word. The prestige of the like, because it's such a, because like I don't know, because obviously I wasn't into this 10 years ago, but I'm pretty sure 10 years ago the number of pro cards I'd hand out per calendar year was like 10% of what it is today, if that.
Well, I mean, there's only like 1 pro card per category per season now as it is, so it's not like it's abundant.
Oh, but like worldwide.
Oh, yeah. I mean, anyway.
For the US, I actually wouldn't know how many pro cards the US hands out, because if you actually, the calendars that I refer to, I very rarely look at the US shows. I know, do you look at the US shows much? Do you have much interest in doing a US show?
Yeah, I actually look. Well, we were looking at it this year, so I had a catch up with Dean last week,
Yeah.
and we were discussing whether or not to do the Amateur Olympia if I was going to go there this year.
Where was that?
Um,
What state?
it's in Vegas.
In Vegas. Yeah, cool.
But the issue was like, and this is kind of what he said, is like, yeah, there's more pro cards, but there's 10 times more people competing. The caliber is potentially 10 times higher.
Yeah.
And then there's nowhere really else to go if you're in the US. Like a lot of the shows in the US aren't open to international competitors.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because I know. Yeah, because I actually tried to look into, because I've applied for a Maltese passport, and I was looking into if you can just skip the whole Australia qualification if you were to be a passport holder of another country, but it's country of residence. I don't know. You could
So I should get my. I can get a Spanish passport, so maybe we'll do that.
You know, you could do a Spanish resident and just get the nomad visa.
I saw that.
Yeah, I have a couple of old clients who live in Ibiza. Yeah.
Some serious tax loopholes there.
Yeah. Oh, they just moved here because they liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, because with Maltese passport, yeah, you pretty much have access to the whole EU. There's actually shows in Malta, believe it or not. I'm not sure how much you know about Malta.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's one. So I think it's only one show a year, but I saw photos of it. It was fucking tiny. But yeah, I can't remember if there was like it was a pro qual. I don't think it would have been. I don't think it's on this year's calendar. It was definitely on last year's calendar because I remember I considered going.
Well, I had a look at the pro qual shows globally for next year, so I think
They got
I'm going
those.
to lock it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to lock in for like maybe Kazakhstan, some really like back alley shows that I can get a pro card.
I think Libya is one of the ones that had 6 pro cards, but you know the funniest, it might not have been. I don't think it would have been, but it just sounds so familiar. You can't even get into Libya
Really?
unless you're into like oil sales. Like if you're an oil salesman or like whatever they are, the rigging, that's the only way you can get in. It might be
what kind of oil.
12 months ago. It depends on what you say.
Depends on what type of oil you're talking about.
12 months ago, you had to be like part of the government. But it's just crazy to think that they do that stuff. Rick's in Portugal at the moment. He said Portugal's been great, like for his bodybuilding. Nice and quiet too. Lisbon's nice. It's just a little bit expensive to get to Lisbon from anywhere else. Because we thought about going to Lisbon, but it was like $500 from the east, like Spain.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When it's $90 to get across the water to Rome. Like, does that make sense? I don't think so.
Well, even like, I mean, and this is the whole thing about like bodybuilding in Australia. Like, you know, Australia's like a kind of cool place to be, but there's so many other cool places in the world to be a bodybuilder. But even like at the moment, I mean, we were trying to piss off to Thailand or Bali soon. It's so expensive to go to Thailand and Bali at the moment.
Man, it cost us $3.5 to get to Spain. Like, it's crazy.
It's stupid.
Yeah, no, it is. But yeah, in regard, because I actually said to Izzy the other day when we were at the Alicante Amateur Olympia, I said to Izzy, admittedly the crowds weren't as big, but it was hard to. The crowds weren't as big, but they weren't as big as I expected. But I think that just comes down to the fact that maybe 1 in 10 competitors were Spanish.
Oh, really?
And you got to think very few of them would actually live in Alicante. So the only guys that were really there were the coaches and maybe like a partner or something like that. Because you got to think if you're from Italy and you say to your family, I'll come to my show, they're not going to come.
Yeah, come to Spain.
That was the only thing. But I did say to Izzy, like, I don't understand why not more people do this because this show is so much better. And even the awards are better. Like, even when you sign up, you get like not a participation medal, but it's like it's almost like it's hard to explain. You get an outfit, like a fucking tracksuit. Like just
it symbolizes that you were there.
Yeah, like those little things like that I just found were pretty cool. Obviously, I assume the registration will be a little bit more, but like if you're the overall winner, you get like a ring and you get like the trophy, like stuff like that. I said, why don't more people do it? And Izzy looked at me and said, because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And I said, not a bad call, actually. Because you got to remember, a lot of these bodybuilders aren't like us. Like, no disrespect, but like as in a lot of them, it's bodybuilding only. Like we're bodybuilding and we're run a business / coach / whatever you want to refer to it as. Heaps of bodybuilders I know that have been really successful. Like all they care about is their bodybuilding. And when they're in prep, it's like, if they've got a business, it's see you later, like, which is not right, but.
Yeah. And they're like recreational bodybuilders, but I think you have to if you're smart, you set up a business around it, or you set up a business that allows you flexibility to be able to do the thing you want to do. And I reckon that was a big consideration for me. Like, I really got into bodybuilding properly, like as I transitioned into the IFBB realm, towards the back end of as we were selling the gym. And a big part of the reason for selling it was like, man, I want to build a business around bodybuilding, or, online fitness, or whatever you want to call it, that allows me to be able to do the thing that I really enjoy. And even now, again, like, so fortunate to have, my first actual proper athlete sponsorship that I can earn a living from, which is crazy. Like, and I think that's why I'm so invested in this whole situation, because not many people get that opportunity. And I feel so like blessed and grateful to be able to have those opportunities to kind of do the thing that I love.
You want to just plug that one?
Which one? Use the discount code?
What are you sponsored by now?
Muscle Tech.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
There you go. You can't actually buy any of it in Australia yet, but when you do,
fuck, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny.
Actually, no, I lie. You can buy it from retailers. It's funny because they're really just starting to kick off in Australia now. And I'm spearheading a lot of the campaigning and a lot of the stuff they're doing in Australia to kind of make it more readily available. Because I want them to have direct to consumer. So they basically just sell like through retail at the moment.
It's funny because I've actually never used Muscle Tech before, but it was that whenever someone was on gear back in the day, he used to say they're on that dare Cell Tech.
Exactly. I've got a tub of Cell Tech in my drawer right now.
On the T Nation forums. Man, do you remember T Nation? Did you ever see that?
Bro, that was the best.
Yeah, I remember I used to post up. Oh man, I used to raid those forums. But it's funny because the information availability like 7-8 years ago, that was the information availability.
That was where you got the information from.
Yeah, that was it. Yep. And I remember raiding those forums day and night, every day, just to get information. There'd be nothing there. And I remember this is how hard it was to find info on things like 7-8 years ago. Because this is when I was like exploring PEDs. Like, I wasn't using them. It was just like so interesting for me. I'd have to like DM YouTubers asking questions. Do you remember Dylan Jamali? Do you remember him?
Name sounds familiar.
I'm just going to check real quick, actually. Hold on. He's just do reviews on it.
On gear?
Yeah, was it Dylan Jamali? I have no idea. I found him. Yeah, man, just this guy right here. Hold on a minute. You never saw him before?
Dylan Jamali.
And then there was Jerry Wardy. Was it Jerry Ward? He passed away, actually. This guy.
No.
That was like where you got the information from back in the day.
That was hilarious. Yeah, T Nation, then like the bodybuilding.com forums, Reddit.
Yeah. And now it's like it's available at your fingertips, and people are still stupid.
They do worse stuff now.
Yeah, no, I'd have to that was. I remember I'd like message them on YouTube, and they never wanted to say anything, and I'd be like, I just want to learn, man. Like, I'm not asking you for advice. I'm not going to do it.
I'm just out here trying to get huge.
Yeah, and then I'd do it on Reddit. Like, I just want to. Yeah, it was just so hard to find info.
Well, I mean, that's the thing now. It's so readily available, but it's like it doesn't mean that it's actually good information.
No, it doesn't at all. No. Yeah, and then now everyone sort of follows the same frame. It actually took me a while. I've had this conversation with people as well. You sort of follow, like, you're taught like a framework, but you don't realize that framework is specifically a framework. Like, it's not a one size fits all. And you get a lot of guys that jump in and they do go into framework thinking they know what they're doing. But it's like, until you've had like 100, maybe not 100, but like a large cohort of clients who you've put through the ringer, like, you won't know
what response you get.
No, yeah. And yeah, because like I said, like, and you were the same. We had a handful of people compete at the same show last season, same weight sort of range, same kind of experience. And seeing the difference between them is like crazy. Like, in what they end up utilizing and what they end up doing towards the end, whether that be PEDs, whether that be nutrition, whether that be training. Had this conversation with someone yesterday, actually, with one of my he's not a young client. You just think it's young because he's small. Anyway, he was talking about like just extremities of prep, like as in people being on like extremely low calories, extremely high output, and then like sort of saying, oh, this coach does this. And it's like, well, to be fair, like someone could think that about me. Like they could say, well, he had this girl on 800 calories an hour cardio. That's how he coaches. But like in the same season, I'd have another girl on double the food and no output. Like, so you never know. And like, you can't, because I used to really judge, not judge people, but I judge their practices at times when you hear extreme things.
Mm.
But like, as time's gone on, I've realized that unless you're coaching that client, you
Yeah,
don't,
no.
yeah, you don't know the circumstances. Like you could have someone could put a client up there out of shape and you could look at them and think, oh, look what Kyle did with his client. He can't be any good. But you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Like, not just was that client on plan or anything, but just even beneath the hood, how's their health? How's their personal life? What's happened here? Like, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, I mean that was, you know, something that happened with one of my guys this year, and you and I spoke about it just
Mm.
with Gyno.
Yeah.
And it was like, it would be very easy to be like, oh, Kyle fucked him up and had him on heaps of gear and, you know, did all
Mm.
the wrong things. It's like, no, he's had that since he was 16 because he
Yeah.
did like some random Psalms that he bought off his mate when he was 16 in high school. And he's had it since then. Like,
Mm.
it just, you kind of just do, you know, the hand that you dealt with, you kind of just make it happen. And
Mm.
there's not much you can do about it.
It's funny. One of the boys that just finished the prep, he's still in really good shape. Jude, I share him sometimes.
Yeah.
And there was rumor going around that I still had him on so much gear and he was doing so much shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, do you want to see it? Like,
Check it out.
he was doing like there's nothing in there. Yeah. But it's just so easy. Like, and people could say, oh yeah, Michael's still jamming him, like he just doesn't know what he's doing or whatever. And it's like, well, that's just not the case. It's difficult because the industry is to some degree not regulated as well. You don't get a level of professionalism upheld by people like in the
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think, as you and I both know this as well, as a coach, it's like, how much do you actually care about your clients and
Mm.
your own skill
Yeah.
set and knowledge level to be able to invest in that, to give the best, you know,
Mm.
service that you can. And I think that's something that you and I both probably done, you know, spent a lot of time upskilling and educating and learning and staying up to date with what's happening to be able to give, you know, the best information to your clients and on social media too.
You also need to know, like, one of the really interesting concepts that I've noticed lately, like not interesting concepts, so just a specific example, which I found super interesting. You need to know when you need to know more. That sounds a little bit
Yeah.
weird. Or you have to be humble enough to know that like you can know more. Daniel Caffeine, you know, from J3, the posing coach,
Yeah. Yeah.
he has done a posing session with every single posing coach who is worth like knowing something from in the past like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, and just seeing his eagerness to learn, like you would think that to some people, they might look at that as this guy's not confident in his practice. But to me, I look at that and I say, this guy is so keen to be as good as he can at what he does, that he is willing to walk into that. And you could see, because he did a session with Logan Franklin and he posted it maybe a couple of days ago. And you
Yeah.
could just see as Logan was teaching him, just in his face, he was
Yeah.
so engaged and so just like wanted to be critiqued and corrected that it was like, this is the guy you need to go to. Like,
Yeah.
this is the premier posing coach. And I feel like that's what separates people as well, because some people are just so arrogant with their practices that they don't want to be corrected or told that something's wrong.
Well, it's very easy to pigeonhole yourself in that situation. It's just like, yep, I know enough to get me by, and I'm just going to do what I think is right, and I don't care about anyone else's opinion. And I think that's something that I've really leveraged, you know, in my own experiences. Like, man, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, obviously. But it's always, I think, consistently staying a student of the game. And that's the approach that I've had, is like, I don't see myself as like a, you know, I'm not the best in the world at what I do, but I try to be. I show up every day to be the best that I can be. And I always stay hungry to learn more, because I know that, you know, I don't know everything. No one knows everything. And I think it's important to have that hunger to always want to learn and to be able to apply that to your practices, and just in the pursuit of always getting better.
And I'm sure you've gone through phases, as have I, where you have thought like you've had like an inflated sense of I want to say self-worth. There's not self-worth. Like, you've thought you're better than you are. Like, I've gone through phases like that where I'm like, fuck, no one can teach me anything. And then you sort of step back, you have like a humbling moment, and you're like, shit. Or it's like a moment in your career. Like, for me, I remember, not that I thought I knew everything, but that's definitely an exaggeration just to make a point. But with preps, there's been preps where I've gotten to the end of it with a client and been really confident in the prep, and then after show day being like, I got work to do. Do you know what I mean? As a coach. I remember one of my first clients that ever did IFBB, prepped him really well. He looked really good as he could have. I was really happy with it. But when I got there on the day and I thought he was like inside out, yeah, I'm like,
You
this
see
guy's
other
going to
people.
kill it on conditioning. And then when I saw how lean some of the dudes were there, I was like, fuck, this is why I need experience. Like, this is why I need to, because I need to make sure I know the look, I know the fullness, I know what full is, I know what spilled is, whatever else comes with that. And that for me was like a moment where I said, I'm going to attend every possible show that I can to make sure I don't miss this. And even when I didn't attend them, I just watched the streams because I don't miss like Australian-based show very rarely. I don't attend the ones in Adelaide and shit, but I'll watch them online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like mine's almost the opposite. Like I'll do a consult or I'll do a course or I'll do something and I'll go the opposite way and be like, man, I don't know shit. Who am I? Like,
Oh, I did the
just
same thing with courses. Yeah. I
doubt my own
actually,
abilities.
yeah. Well, I got really into like the pharmacology of like PEDs at one point. And I have a mate who was sort of helping me with it. He's really good with it. You know him, but just because we're talking about PEDs, won't say who it is. He's fucking fantastic with it. And I was sharing stuff off him, bouncing studies off him, bouncing reports off him. And he said, bro, you do realize this rabbit hole you're going into is going to consume you. And
100%.
I said, what do you mean? He's like, this is years of stuff you're trying to condense down into weeks. And I'm like, no, I'll be right. And then like a few weeks later, I was like, holy fuck, like this is crazy. Because you start on like, I remember I did a big research piece on Clen and you start on like the real basic fundamentals and then you start exploring pathways and you're like, fuck, I don't really understand that pathway. And then that path routes off into like 20 directions.
All right.
Yeah.
Go. Have you read the L-carnitine book from Alex Kyl?
No. Is it crazy? Just carnitine.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Do you know who Alex Kyl is, the prep coach?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So he's got it's a growth hormone book and he's got an L-carnitine book.
Yeah.
The L-carnitine book I only got quite recently. I was like, fuck, I want to read it. So I'm gonna like every morning I was like, when I wake up, have my coffee and I do 20, 30 minutes of reading. And it was only like 30 pages. I thought, oh man, I'll breeze this. Bro, it took me like 2 weeks to read 30 pages because it was literally, he's like, all right, I'm going to dumb it down for you. I'm going to go down this pathway and this becomes this and this. And I'm like, what? I don't know anything.
And it's just like, to most people, it's just carnitine.
like just take it. It's fine.
Yeah, no. Do you use oral carnitine at all? Yeah.
No, I did a post about this the other day once I finished reading that book. I mean, the injectable form, I mean, after reading that book, obviously, but just based on my own research and the things that I've done and seen, the injectable form is so much better.
Do you see the injectable form of carnitine as something that would be if practical, a baseline product for every male in existence?
Yeah. I mean, just based on the abundance of benefits it has, both from a performance and health perspective and also body composition, like, man, it's wild. I mean, the only limitation is that you have to inject it every day, so it's not that fun. But outside of that, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I do say to everyone, like I would run it all year if it wasn't for the jabs. But like I transitioned to sub-Q for a little while, and Joe actually said you might get welts, so be careful. And the first 2-3 weeks of it, I was like, no welts at all. And then after that, I was finding when I'd have to go back into a site, it would get a little bit irritated. But to be fair, like I've had females do carnitine, they love it. Like in terms of how it makes them feel. Like not
I'm sure
results or anything, just energy availability. They just feel great.
Well, this was, again, I can't recall the exact pathway or situation that it occurs in, but basically one of the points that Alex brought up in the book was because it crosses the blood-brain barrier, it has some really positive use cases for prep scenarios where it helps reduce brain fog, which is crazy.
It's funny because without going into names, like for the preps, I had a few using it who said that they felt that once introduced, because I would introduce it later, not so much introduce it later. I wanted it in from the start, but when it reached a point where I did want to see an uptick in performance and lipolysis, I'd say, okay, now you need to take it. Or like, I really am encouraging you to do it. And almost everyone that did it in would say, I almost felt like I wasn't in prep for the first few weeks. Like that's how like refreshed it made them feel.
Well, it was literally, so it was only the first time that I started using it was when I started under Dean, and it was something he recommended. But we did a pretty aggressive fat loss phase, like right off the bat. And I was talking to you about this. I was eating like 1,600 calories for like 5 weeks straight.
Joyce.
And
Yeah.
it was, bro, it was a breeze. Like I was PBing every day in the gym. My cognitive function was fantastic. Energy for the most part was like great. And I thought, oh, wow, this is like mental.
It's funny, I tried to find carnitine over here as well. No, I couldn't find it. I just
Oh,
walked into
really?
a couple of vets and I said, "Do you sell carnitine?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't deal with horses." And I was like, "Oh, so you would have it if it was horses?" Like, "Well, you have to show us your horse." I'm like, evidence of your horse. I'm like, okay.
He's at home. I've just got to
Yeah,
bring it for him.
yeah. Because I walked into an Alicante vet and I was going to tell him, like, my story was, all right, we have a horse in the countryside. We need to get it for that. But Izzy was like, "Who has a horse in Alicante?" I'm
No
like,
one.
probably, yeah. Like it's fucking boiling because I don't think this is so way off topic, but I don't think horses are meant to live in warm climates. I don't know. There's a horse. That's why it's interesting. Yeah, Izzy. Yeah, but yeah, no, yeah, definitely carnitine is like I do like it. In regards to fasted state versus with a meal, I always found it was a little bit more efficacious with the meal. But I'm not too sure your perspective on that.
Yeah, so interesting. I was always of the opinion that it was better utilized fasted. Yeah, but after reading Alex's book and maybe some of the things I heard as well, it certainly performs better with insulin as a transporting molecule,
Yeah,
basically.
that's my theory as well.
So he was basically like, it was either having it with a meal, so pre-workout, or taking it with exogenous insulin.
Interesting. Yeah, no, because fasted, I find fasted is a little bit less convenient as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just comes down to like what you've got the capacity to do, really.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And especially if you're starting getting sore sites and stuff.
Oh yeah, it sucks. It
Yeah.
sucks. But some,
Yeah,
I mean,
and the biggest inhibitor with different carnitine, yeah. I don't even know how we
especially
got carnitine now. That's
well,
okay.
especially with sub Q, because it's like, I
Mm.
mean, you have to take quite a big volume unless you're a small female, but you know, doing like half a mil under your skin is not that fun.
Well, it's funny because I moved to 500 megs a mil. I got like a UGL one.
Yeah.
Well, not a UGL. I have a, I can't go into too much detail of that, but he would make it. And that hurt so much more than the vet grade.
Oh yeah.
Like that was like, all right, I'm not doing this. Like it was
Because the
just,
vet one's only like 200, isn't it?
yeah. And it was more, it was like it's like water based where the
Yeah.
UGL one was, it was like, it wasn't quite like a thick oil, but it was oily. So I found that was significantly worse.
Yeah, especially for sub Q. Fuck that.
Yeah, no, that was rough. Yeah. And like it's one of those compounds that you don't really notice enough for a return. Like you don't really notice it to a point where it's like, I'm gonna suck this up.
No, and you don't. I don't think you really notice it for like quite a significant time period as well. Like it's like months of repeated use.
Yeah, no, I do. I probably would like it more so as well in like a not recomposition phase, but when you're pushing calories up, because I feel like you could probably just maintain a leaner physique throughout the course.
Yeah, very
That,
much so.
that would be the biggest thing, and then you pair that with like growth, and you get sort of similar kind of benefit there too. Provided you don't hold a bucket load of water and then look like you put on body fat.
Post comp anyway, eating all the donuts.
Yeah. But yeah, we might just have to wrap it up there, man. But I reckon we just do another. We'll do another one with James as well.
Done.
Yeah, fucking oath. Thanks for jumping on, man. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
If anyone doesn't know, I think I asked you a few like very introductory style questions at the start, but like we know each other very well. It's just yeah. But probably we can probably talk for hours. So yeah, we'll do it again soon. Thank you.
Done. Thanks for having me.
All right, no worries. Have a good day, man, or night.
You too, bro. Oh yeah, you too.
Thanks, bro.